Hi, church. As I'm sure you're aware, the U.S. election is coming very quickly. And about a week ago, we had a church life meeting in which we talked as a church about how to be praying for the election. And in this short video, I just want to share my thoughts and some things that I shared in that meeting about how we can be praying as a community for this election. And I do feel like that's a call that God has for us, is that we are called to be praying. This especially, I think about this because in Jeremiah, there's an example where the Israelites have been sent into exile into the city of Babylon. And Jeremiah the prophet speaks to the Israelites. And he says in Jeremiah 29:7, he says, "But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare." So I think there's a call here that we as a community can be praying for this election, for our community, for our cities and our counties and our country, so that things will go well. Because if it goes well for the community and the country, then it'll go well for us. And so I do believe that we're called to pray for this election. I think there's two elements. One is, if we are praying on our own, we can be praying for the candidates and the propositions that we care about, and we can really wrestle and talk to God about any of those things, and I encourage you to do that. As a community, there's a question of how do we pray in unity together, and especially how does that work when we may have different opinions about which candidate should win or which proposition should win. And in that context, I feel like there's a way that we can be praying together that will keep us in unity, but we'll be praying along these lines of how can God be at work through the election. And so I want to encourage us to be praying together as a community in 4 specific ways. And I think those ways that we can pray together will help us to draw closer to God as we do that, and will help us to draw closer to one another as we do that as well. And those 4 ways are, first, I think we can be praying for the process. I think we can be praying that God will make the process smooth and safe, and that there will be a clear result in this election. And I think we can pray against confusion or any type of interference or any type of obstructions that would interfere with the voting process. And so we can really pray, I think, for the process. I think secondly, we can be praying for provision from God. And provision specifically, I think we can be praying that God would provide enough staff for the polling places, that would be enough people that can count the ballots, and that all that want to vote and that can vote would be able to vote. And so praying for provision as well. I think thirdly, we can be praying for peace, that the voices of peacemakers in our country and our communities would be magnified, and that those voices of division would be frustrated, that there would be not division, but really peace in the process, and really praying against fear and anxiety, both for ourselves and for those in our nation. And finally, I think we can be praying for providence, that God's will would be done and that his ways would prosper in our nation. We know that the politics and political solutions will not solve all of the problems. We know that God is much more sovereign than all of that. And so our prayer is that through this election, it's one element of it, but I think we can pray that God's will and God's ways would prosper in our nation. And in that, I just want to encourage you to be in prayer, especially this week as we're heading towards the election. I want to encourage us to be praying together. We have prayer rooms and prayer groups, and I do encourage us to pray together. And my encouragement is, this is a way that I think we can pray in unity, even if we have different views and opinions. Let's not be praying specifically as a group. We don't need to be praying specifically for candidates or propositions. I think these are ways that we can pray together in unity for this election. And I think God will be blessed as we do that. And he calls us to pray for our nation, pray for our country, that it will go well. So my encouragement is, let's do that together. Thanks.